I was talking to a widow this morning and explaining to her that this year she's going to be paying more in taxes than she paid last year because we don't get the married filing jointly. So we only get half of the deductions. And so therefore we have to be in a higher tax bracket.
And welcome into Financial Focus. John Kuykendall here with us, as always, providing guidance and insight. And today talking about how higher taxes could derail your retirement approach and 5 different ways that, in fact, taxes can rise and how that could impact your retirement. Taxes are an ongoing issue, a thorn in all of our side. I mean, we all understand we've got to pay to support things and to have services and infrastructure, John, but we don't want to pay any more than necessary. And when the rules change on us, that is a big concern, especially for retirees.
Well, it is, Peter. And, we're all retirees are on fixed incomes. They have their Social Security. Very few of them have pensions. And then they're living off of the money that we're taking out of their 401ks that we've deferred and paying the taxes on it. But, the thing about it is that taxes are a big part of our spending in retirement, about 17%, I believe. And so we need to make sure that we understand taxes and we understand how they're going to affect us. When it comes to retirement, we've got 3 possibilities with taxes. One, that they're going to be lower in retirement, and that's what you hope for. But I don't see us getting that, Peter, anytime soon.
But it's what we've been told for like the last 35 or 40 years and why we've saved so much in those 401ks, right, John?
That's right. Since we're on a bracket system, in other words, the more you make, the more you pay, the theory was we would be living on Social Security and pulling a little bit of money out of our retirement accounts, but it would be enough that we would stay in the lowest tax bracket. And that's not the case because we're finding now that it's taking as much or more to live in retirement than it did when we were working.
Okay, so 3 possibilities. One possibility, taxes could be lower, and then I think I know where the other 2 might be going.
Well, they could be the same, or they could be higher.
Uh-huh.
If I had to guess and I wanted to bet, if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would bet that they're going to be higher, Peter. There's just more debt service, and more funds that the government needs. And as we continue to fund all these programs, and we look at some of the programs that the potential candidates for president are looking at, it's going to take more money to pay for those.
Well, I know taxes are important, an important topic in retirement and retirement planning. It's obvious, but I think it just bears stating that the more you pay in taxes, the less income you then have to spend. And I think that's what we're worried about, right? Our money will therefore not last as long. It will not stretch for as many years, even with a nominal 2, 3, 5% increase in the tax rates that we pay, John. And as we know, those laws might already be on the books. I say might, are already on the books.
Well, Peter, the thing about it is we are faced with a lot of changes that we're going to see in the next 10 years in retirement. Social Security, 2033, we've got to do something between now and then on Social Security, or we're going to get less money. Medicare, 2034, 35, Medicare is going to need changes. So there are going to be constant changes, and put on top of that, the fact that the tax laws that we currently have sunset in December of 25, we're going to see major changes, and we need to stay on top of those as retirees and do the best job we can in working up our budget and kind of, surfing through these. We need to make lemonade out of these lemons that are going to be given to us.
Well, John, we have 5 ways taxes can rise in retirement that we want to cover. So let's get into them. Number 1, you change tax brackets.
That's right. In other words, we pull out more money out of our 401k. We have certain, emergencies, things that we need. So we go from one tax bracket to the higher tax bracket, and that will cause us to pay more taxes. We have some control over that, Peter, but you would be amazed at the number of people that don't understand what tax bracket they're in.
And then, John, of course, we know that eventually, if one spouse passes away, that's another point in time where we change tax brackets, going from the married filing jointly classification to a single or head of household. We will bump up in the income brackets that we fall in, even with the same income.
Well, that's it, because we don't have as many deductions, Peter. I was talking to a widow this morning and explaining to her that this year she's going to be paying more in taxes than she paid last year because we don't get the married filing jointly. So we only get half of the deductions. And so therefore we have to be in a higher tax bracket.
Number two, two of the 5 ways, John, that taxes can rise in retirement is that the tax brackets change around us. And that's what we're talking about here, that is possible in 2026, but certainly a more extreme change is also potential and possible.
Well, that's right, Peter. There are changes. We can change the tax brackets by increasing the rate that we're paying in each bracket, or we can move the brackets down so that we hit a bracket sooner than we thought. And so those are all legislative changes that we don't exactly know what's going to happen, but we need to be aware of it. And as soon as we find out, we need to react.
Well, and I say a more significant or more extreme change could be possible. That's not to minimize these changes that are on the books here and already law set to go into effect January 1, 2026, John, because when that happens, the 12% bracket is slated to increase to 15. Now, the difference between 12 and 15 doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a 25% higher tax bill on a married couple's first $94,000 or so of income.
Yeah, well, I mean, a small amount makes a big difference. And so we're going to be paying more in taxes. We know that because brackets are going to change unless we see something. We're still going, even though we sunset in 2026 or 2025, December, January 1st, 2026, we should revert back to the old laws or the laws that have been proposed between now and then. So, we don't know what that's going to be. We don't know how that's going to affect us, but we got to be cognizant of it and we got to be ready for it.
And in order for that not to happen, by the way, new tax law would have to pass both the House, the Senate, and be approved by a president. And if there's divided parties amongst those different entities, may not have a realistic chance of happening. Number 3 of the 5 ways that taxes can rise on us in retirement, deductions could be eliminated, John.
Well, that's right, Peter. In 2020, I think it was 2017, we came out with the new tax laws. 2020, we came out with the Secure Act. And what that did was it eliminated, you couldn't deduct over more than $10,000 for your home taxes. And so there were, I think it was a large number in New Jersey that couldn't use their full interest or full taxes, couldn't get the deduction. They were limited to the 10,000. So that's an example of how we can limit deductions. But also, if we go back, remember, we're looking at 3,500 per person based on the prior laws, and we're getting 13 something now. So that's a huge increase. I think when we looked the other day at a married couple filing jointly, the difference between the taxes they would have paid prior to 2017 and now was something like over $8,000 more in taxes.
Number 4 of the 5 ways that taxes can rise, the way assets are taxed changes. And John, I know there's been a lot of discussion about capital gains, but one of the most tangible examples of this happening before is Social Security. And that certainly has a big impact on retirement.
Yeah, legislation was passed in 84, that based on Social Security taxes that we have. Currently, up to 50%, up to 85% of your Social Security could be taxed. It starts off at 50% taxed, goes up to a max at 85. They could eliminate the max. They could change how much we pay in the 50%. They could do a lot of things to Social Security so that we end up paying more in taxes. Originally Social Security wasn't taxed. And so slowly we have been implementing these changes whereby we certainly have increased the taxes on Social Security.
And there's nothing to say that they couldn't do that again, right? There's a threshold of income rather low, never been adjusted, where 50% of a single person or married couple's Social Security income becomes taxable income. There's another threshold where 85% of it becomes taxable income. Nothing to say that, John, in the future, they couldn't enact a yet third threshold tier where 100% of your Social Security is taxable.
Well, that's right, Peter. They could say all of it's taxable now. They could base it on income. People over a certain income are going to pay more in Social Security taxes, or more of their Social Security is going to be taxed than those in a lower income. There are all kinds of things that they can do legislatively, and we have seen a lot of them over the years, and we're going to see more in the future.
And finally, number 5 of the 5 different ways that taxes can rise in retirement, John, new taxes are enacted. We've seen this from time to time.
Well, we have, Peter. I mean, certainly example of Social Security we just talked about, that was a new tax because originally Social Security wasn't taxed. We can also see that, Medicare Part B, we're having to pay more for it continually. It started off at like $6 and it's worked up now to 191. And so those are examples of ways that we're going to be paying more. Certainly, Congress is looking at unrealized capital gains. I've got a stock that I bought in my company and I bought it at 50,000. Now it's worth 150, but I haven't sold it yet. They're looking at ways that they can make me pay taxes on that, even though I haven't sold it. Perhaps the biggest one and the most controversial, I think, is the fact that you don't get the step up on inheritance for assets. So in other words, if my family died and left me a home, I have to pay the taxes on that now.
Yeah.
I don't get the step up basis.
John, I think that unrealized capital gains one, the way that most people can readily understand that as a tangible concept is that you paid tax on your income in order to purchase your home.
Right.
And then in order to be able to stay in your home, you pay property taxes. So that's already 2 taxes. Well, if you had a $500,000 home and the value went up to $750,000, but you were still living in the home, you had not sold it, you had not made that money, taxes of unrealized capital gains would say that you now additionally owe a third tax on the $250,000 that your property has gained in value, even if you hadn't sold it. Now, think about if you did that back in 2006, right? Think about if this was in effect back in 2006. You pay tax on the $250,000 of gain, and then the Great Recession comes along, right, John?
Right.
And your property value falls back 250,000. Are they going to give that money back or give you a deduction or write off? No, that's not the way this proposal works. And that seems problematic to me.
Well, it does to me too, Peter. I think we all are sitting on unrealized capital gains on our homes. But you got to remember, the homes were for the purpose of putting a shelter over our roof over our heads and providing shelter for our families. When we bought them, we really didn't think that these homes were going to appreciate as much as they have. But there's certainly no reason to say that they're going to continue to do that, or because of a law like you're talking about, they may not be worth as much because people are going to have to sell them in order to pay the taxes because they can't afford to live in it. I mean, as a retiree, you may own $1 million home, but you paid $200,000 for it. So, how am I going to pay taxes on $800,000 and still survive and do everything and pay everything I have to pay nowadays? Can't be done.
Well, those are 5 ways taxes can rise in retirement. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, taxes are an important topic when it comes to retirement because the more you pay in tax, the less income you have. So, John, what are some things that we can do in order to protect ourselves from these risks?
Well, we have to look at tax diversification, I think, Peter. What we have to do is look at some tax-free strategies, municipal bonds, tax-free federal bonds, look at annuities to some things like that. Roth IRA conversions, certainly a big one now. We continue to do those. But I think the main thing, Peter, is we need to be proactive. And so we need to stay up on these laws and do the financially focused income plan so that we can run the taxes for you and show you how we're going to pay for them and how we're going to try to stay within certain brackets so that we can pay the least tax for that year. And that's one of the things, like I said in the beginning, very few people understand what tax bracket they're in. When you say you're in the 20% tax bracket, you're not really in the 20% tax bracket. You have a bracket that brings up to that because it's progressive. So part of my money is based at one tax, and I get past that, I'm at a higher tax and a higher tax. So what we need to do is focus on keeping you in the lowest tax bracket we can get you through annuities so that we don't have to pay interest or pay capital gains on the gains this year, tax-free Roth conversions, which are tax-free. Those are all ways that we can, life insurance, all ways that we can put money into work and at the same time be careful about the taxes.
Income, investments, and taxes heavily intertwined, all codependent on each other. John, that's why that financially focused written retirement income plan doesn't just address the income, but how is the income going to be generated? From what assets, from what investments, and then how much of that are we going to get to keep to actually spend, the tax angle as well. Bringing those things together, vitally important for a confident retirement. And that's why so many in North Central Florida have taken advantage of the opportunity, the offer to come in and get their financially focused written retirement income plan designed and structured with you and your team there at GulfCoast Financial Services. But so many more need that plan in place.
Oh, yeah. Peter, I mean, I don't know how we can be retired today without one, without a financially focused income plan. If you don't have an income plan, looking at taxes, Social Security, Medicare, all the components of your daily living, I don't know how you're going to be able to survive as we move forward. I mean, this is really getting to be complex, and it's going to be more complex over the next couple of years. And if we go to a indexed for income Social Security payment, all those things are going to impact the amount of money I have today that I can spend. And so what am I going to cut out? How am I going to live my best life and pay the least taxes, but at the same time have the kind of income that I need for retirement, Peter?
Always a pleasure speaking with John Kuykendall. Ladies and gentlemen, the offer for that opportunity extended to you. Have a conversation with John and the team from GulfCoast Financial Services, and then get to work structuring the comprehensive, financially focused written retirement income plan, addressing your income, your investments, your taxes, healthcare, and legacy also addressed within that plan. Big concerns from a high level, and many of the details and intricacies, the risks, issues, and opportunities identified within each one of those major categories. That is the financially focused written retirement income plan. Pick up the phone, give GulfCoast Financial Services a call now. If you have not had that put in place, if you've not specifically designed it and addressed it, or you need to update that periodically because the world changes, tax laws change, and our situation changes right along with it. We need to make sure our plan changes and addresses those changes that happen. So pick up the phone, give a call, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, 386-755-9018, or visit online, GulfCoastFinancial.net, GulfCoastFinancial.net. John, always a pleasure having you here on the program, reminding us to stay financially focused.
Thank you, Peter. Great to be here. Y'all have a good week.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through GulfCoast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. GulfCoast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions.